Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever overtime NCAA tournament special. I'm Theodore Fernandez. You guys may remember me from that time. I destroyed the competition in our NFL playoff picks. I'm back for some more, and I've got a new cast with me. And this is a cast that anyone who's followed Warwick sports in the past couple years will instantly recognize. First, we've got two-sport athlete Nick NICOSIA.
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
We got the golden leg, Drew Borner.
How is everyone? Thank you for having me.
And a man who needs no introduction, Coach SIRICO.
Thanks for having me, buddy. I'm ready to roll.
All right, so let's get right into this. I'm first going to ask you guys how you felt about this college season so far. What have been your general thoughts, and how do you feel about that selection show? Anyone get snubbed? Anyone overseeded, underseeded? Nick, take it away.
I got one thing. I think Michigan being in the tournament is crazy. I don't think the record's good enough. I thought they've been performing very badly this year. I don't see how they made it over Texas A&M with how their run was going in the SEC tournament. And even Oklahoma or teams like Dayton, I just don't understand how Michigan made it over them. But maybe the Wolverines will pick it up and have a good run at it. We'll see.
Yeah, I think everyone here is hoping that Colorado State absolutely destroys them. They in no way deserve to be in. You absolutely hit that on the head. Drew, how about you?
I thought it was a great overall season. It was just fun to see fans back. Really no restrictions with COVID. Just having fans back was probably my big impact on the college season. But it was just overall it was good. I liked the seeding. I thought it was good. I didn't think anyone was really too high, too low. I'm just hoping Gonzaga can win it all this year.
Yeah, that's something we'll get into a little later. Coach, any thoughts?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. Number one, I think Warwick Wildcats should not have been in the first four out. Okay, I think they should have been in the last four in. That's number one. Our boys team had a great year. Number two, Vermont seeded 13. I think they are under-seeded. I think they deserve to have a better seeding, especially how well they played down the stretch.
We will be talking about the Catamounts later, so stay tuned. One note I want to add, let's all give a shout out to the University of Bellarmine. This is second-year Division I program. They won the Atlantic Sun Conference. They are not allowed to play in the NCAA tournament due to an absolutely ridiculous rule. The NCAA should be ashamed. They robbed these kids of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And it's absolutely ridiculous that they're not allowed to play. But I guess we got to move forward. Hopefully Bellarmine can get back in the tournament in the future. But let's get into the teams that are in. So before we actually move into our first region, I do want to take a brief moment to explain basically the general rules of what we're going to be rolling out. So we're facing this out as a contest. We're going to have 3 rounds, and you guys are all watching round 1 right here. This will be worth a total of 20 points, this round right here. We'll get into it in a minute. Round 2, which we'll meet to do next week, will be worth 12. And the final round will be worth 8 points, meaning that there are a total of 40 points available for everyone here to earn. In each round, we'll be making our game picks. These picks will be worth 1 per in this round. Then they'll double each consecutive round, so 2 in round 2 and 4 in round 3, where we will be predicting the champion. In addition to this, we will be rolling out a wild card question in each round. And this is where it really gets fun. We'll be getting into it later, but this is worth 4 points, so it's very significant in the grand scheme of things. And, of course, whichever analyst has the most points following the end of the tournament will be declared the winner. So I think everyone here wants to win. We all want some bragging rights. So let's get right into it. And we're going to let you take it away, Drew, with the West region.
All right, so for the West region, starting first, I put Gonzaga. Gonzaga going to hopefully, I'm assuming, big win over Georgia State. It should be a pretty hefty win. And then I had Memphis beating Boise State in the first round. That was my close game there, just both 8 and 9 seed, one of the toughest games in the tournament. But I had Memphis coming on top. And then next I had UConn over New Mexico State. Just really, UConn I just think is a better overall team, so I just think they'll get it done there. Then I have Vermont. I just think Vermont is a surprise team here. They should be, what Coach Rico said, they should be definitely a higher seed. So I had Vermont beating Arkansas, which should probably be a big upset. Then I had Rutgers coming out of the first four-in game and them beating Alabama. Alabama's been a little bit playing bad down the stretch here, so hoping that Rutgers get it done there. And then I had Texas Tech beating Montana State, and then Michigan State beating Davidson, and Duke beating CSU Fullerton, which hopefully, even though in the ACC championship against Virginia Tech they lost, and in Coach K's last game at Camden Indoor they lost.
So your Final Four. So there you have your Sweet 16 teams: Gonzaga, UConn, Rutgers, and Michigan State. I do want to say, I'm sure Coach SIRICO, who is huge on the SEC, has something to say about Alabama. I'm sure. Anything, SIRICO?
Yeah. So in my bracket, since you're throwing this out to me, my friend, I'm going to go right at it. My Sweet 16 teams are Gonzaga, Vermont as my upset team, Alabama because there's no better conference than the SEC. Even though many people will say the ACC or the Big Ten is better, I just think the best athletes are in the SEC. And then I like Duke because Coach K is going to get him to that Sweet 16 in his final run as the Duke head coach.
Yeah, you're huge on the SEC, I see, where it just means more, except in these college bowl games where the conference goes out and has a losing record. Just saying. I'm very interested in Vermont, though. I will say they do have a great matchup. They're playing in Buffalo, New York. I'm sure the Catamount faithful will be able to get down to those games. And they're playing Arkansas in the first round, so I don't think I think the attendance will be greatly in Vermont's favor, and we all know how crowd plays a factor. Nick, I'm going to toss it over to you now. Give us your teams.
So I think the obvious pick would be Gonzaga going all the way to Sweet 16. They're really, really good this year. Even though I think Memphis is going to give them a run for their money in the second round, I think Gonzaga's got it. I'm going to go with UConn as my second team in the Sweet 16. I like UConn's guard play. I think UConn's a good team. They're underrated, undervalued. So the Vermont-Arkansas game, I still think is a toss-up. I'm big on Vermont. Arkansas is playing a little iffy right now, but I think Arkansas could pull away with that one. Then I think Alabama's going to lose to Rutgers. I see Rutgers beating Notre Dame and coming out and upsetting Bama. And then I think Texas Tech is also going to take Rutgers down in round of 32. So I think Texas Tech's another Sweet 16 team. And then I really don't see anyone giving Duke a problem in the first two rounds. I mean, Michigan State's solid. Davidson has had a pretty good year this year, but I just really don't see anyone beating Coach K and Duke with how Paolo's been playing. So those are my Sweet 16 teams.
Well, I actually have to disagree with you on Duke, but before I get into that, let's talk about Rutgers real quick because this is such a fun team. It's incredible, the program that Pickles built up. And Ron Harper Jr., for anyone who's unaware, incredible player. I'm sure, Nick, you're nodding. I'm sure you've seen some of those incredible shots he's hit.
Oh, yeah.
He's a big-time player.
For sure.
But, yeah, now let's see. I'll get into mine now because I have an interesting take on Duke. I think if you look at this team, something's not right. And if I had to guess, I think it's pressure being put on these players. You know, Coach K just has such a huge legacy, 40 years worth of it. And the fact that, like, these 18, 19, 20-year-olds are all being tasked with, like, completing his legacy by winning a final championship. And that's just such a hard responsibility to place on these guys. We also know that Duke is not immune to first-round upsets. Mercer, not Florida Gulf Coast, Lehigh. They've lost in the second round to a team like South Carolina. I think this is a year where they lose in the second round, and I think it will be at the hands of the Davidson Wildcats. You know, Steph Curry aside, this is a great program, very well coached. They play great as a unit, and I'm huge on the A10. I have a weird A10 bias going. But I like this team, and I think that they can play spoiler to the greatest coach in the history of the sport and ruin him. But I'm going pretty chalk for the rest of my picks. Gonzaga, UConn, Texas Tech. Don't think much needs to be said there. Let's move things over to the South region now, where we're dealing with a new crop of teams. And I'll let you take this one away, Nick. Give us your picks.
So I'm going to start with – I'm going Arizona. all the way to the Sweet 16. I'm really high on them this year. I think they're a really, really good team, and they have that national championship build for them. I think Seton Hall is going to win, but I think it's not even going to be like the biggest challenge for Arizona. I think they're really, really good. I have Houston going all the way to the Sweet 16. I think a lot of people are high on UAB this year to upset them and to have that 12-5 upset. But I think Houston, their defense is really, really good. Their offense may struggle, but I think the defense is going to carry them, even though it's a tournament of offense. And then I think Kofi Cochran's really good. I don't think that he's going to be the biggest problem for Houston, though. And then I also have Tennessee going to the Sweet 16. I have them as I think I have them in the finals this year because they look really good. I think they're underseeded. I think they should have been at 2, but they look really good. And then I don't see Ohio State, even though Loyola Chicago has that good rep of going pretty far, I don't see them giving Nova a problem. So I have Nova going to Sweet 16 as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you said there. You know, they say great minds think alike. I have the exact same picks as you. I picked all 4 teams exactly the same. I love this Houston team. I think they have a very high ceiling as a 5 seed. And I think this is one of the most interesting brackets because these are all teams that you can really trust. Like, they all seem like they're not very immune to being upset early. And I'm going to toss it over to Coach SIRICO now, who's going to kind of prove me right. His picks are almost identical. Take it away, Coach.
Well, listen, I feel like, Sweet 16 in the South, pretty easy one. Arizona, Illinois. I like Tennessee. I agree with Nicos on that one. Tennessee is probably going to, I really think they're underseeded. Another SEC school, best athletes in the country in the SEC. And I like Delaware to beat Villanova in the first round, but then for Ohio State to take Delaware out in the second round. You heard it first here in Wildcat Country.
That is a wild pick, but you never know. I personally love this Villanova team. I'm already getting excited for a potential Villanova-Tennessee matchup in the Sweet 16, but you never know, and that's the beauty of the madness. Drew, close us off with your South region picks.
The South started Arizona. Obvious number 1 seed, best record in the tournament. They're just the team to beat, honestly. Then I had Illinois beating Houston. Just Illinois, great team. Then I had Tennessee. I'm also really high on Tennessee. I just think they should have been definitely a 2 seed instead of a 3. Just a really good team. And then I had Villanova as the last team in the Sweet 16 for the South. But I just think Villanova, Loyola Chicago will be a great game, be a high-scoring game, and hopefully Villanova will come out on top.
I think it's safe to assume that basically everyone watching that game, unless you're a diehard Villanova faithful, will be rooting for Loyola Chicago. How can you not? This team's delivered so many fun moments over the past couple years. Even though they've lost their coach, I'm excited to see what they can do. And Sister Jean's still there, so that's always a plus.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we are rolling right along now, halfway through the bracket, and let's shift over to the other half. Coach, take it away with your Midwest region picks.
Midwest, no problem. So Midwest, here's what I like in the Sweet 16. I like Kansas. I like Iowa. You know I love the SEC, so I'm an LSU guy. And what great athlete does not want to go to Southern California to continue his education? So to me, USC has got to make it to the Sweet 16 just because of the draw of beautiful Southern California.
Well, that is actually the first time so far that you've picked against an SEC team. You don't think Auburn's gone through. That's an interesting one because we all saw what USC did last year. They made a run to the Elite Eight. They defeated Kansas on that run, along with fellow conference member Oregon. I really like what this team can do, even though they've lost Evan Mobley, who's obviously a stud with the Cavs. They have his brother Isaiah. They have most of those pieces from last year's team. And I do agree with you, Coach. I think that USC will defeat Auburn in that round of 32 matchup and make a run to the Sweet 16. Now, my other picks are a little interesting. I'm going with Wisconsin and Kansas, first of all. I'm not huge on the Big Ten this year. They were very disappointed in last year's tournament. They, I think, will be disappointing again this year, but not huge on any of those other teams Wisconsin would be facing, so I think I can safely pick them to the Sweet 16, and Kansas is obviously obvious. My fourth pick is going to be the Richmond Spiders. Yeah, I've already said I love the Atlantic 10 Conference, but this is a legitimate team. Gilliard is absolutely incredible for anyone who saw what he did in that championship against Davidson. The one thing, everyone always talks about burnout being a problem for a team like Richmond that goes on a big run that they're not supposed to go on. And the same, we'll be talking about that too for Virginia Tech later. But this team just feels a little different because these are all guys who just have never tasted this in their lives. All right, so none of these players have ever played in the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. And at the same time, you'd watch them at the end of the game, at the end of that A10 championship. They didn't even seem that elated or anything. You didn't see. It didn't seem like it was the end for them. It seemed like it was the start of something. And I think it's the start of a Sweet 16 run. So we'll throw it over to you, Drew, now, and give us your picks.
I have Kansas, Providence, Wisconsin, and USC. Just my big game there is probably going to be Richmond-Providence. Just Richmond played a fantastic Atlantic 10 championship. I'm really high on the Atlantic 10 as well. I just think Providence will get it done over them, but overall those four teams will come out on top to make it to the Sweet 16.
All
right, Nick. So far it's been all USC. You disagree. You have Auburn. Can you tell us why and then rule out the rest of your picks?
So I'm going to Auburn because they looked good at the beginning of the year. They've kind of been iffy, but I think Auburn is still that top tier team that they showed at the beginning of the year, and they could really make a deep run into it. They have really good shooters. I think they're a good team, and I don't see USC giving them a problem. I see Miami, if anyone, giving them a problem, especially with how they played in the ACC tournament. Again, I think they played really well against Duke. Duke pulled out on top, but I think Miami's just an underrated team, and I think that's going to be a little upset. But you guys seem to not be very high on Iowa. I personally am a big Iowa fan. I think their offense is electric. They can go on big runs. I think that Richmond isn't really going to be a crazy problem, even though Richmond has been playing well. I really just think Iowa's offense is just too good for Richmond to even handle. And then I think Kansas is going to go all the way. And I think the 8-9 game of the year, game of the tournament, is going to be San Diego State and Creighton. I think both of those teams are very even, but I think San Diego State's going to come out on top just because I think they're a little bit better of a team. But that's going to be a really good 8-9 game. And then I think Wisconsin just really doesn't have that much competition going to the Sweet 16. I don't think LSU or Iowa State's really that good, especially with how LSU really plays. And then Wisconsin's also led by Player of the Year Johnny Davis, who's been outstanding this year. So I think Wisconsin is a lock for the Sweet 16 as well.
Yeah, great analysis there. Let me just add, because the 8-9 games get looked over a lot because, there's usually not a lot of juicy stuff there. No upset potential, usually no really exciting players. And this San Diego State Creighton game really doesn't look like it has that much. Anyone who loves the way the game of basketball is played needs to watch this game. This San Diego State defense is one of the best I've seen in years. Their offense is atrocious. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But I love what this defense can do. They're the best in the nation this year. And it'll really be a great inside look into how basketball should be played, particularly on that defensive end. So let's move into our final region here, and that'll be the East. Drew, I'm going to let you start us off. Give us your picks.
Starting off, I have UNC beating Baylor. I just think UNC's been playing really well. I just think this will be the number one seed going down, probably the first one to go in the tournament. I just think UNC's been playing well. Hopefully they can get it done, beat Duke at Coach K's last home game. They played really well. Then I had UCLA beating Indiana, and then Virginia Tech beating Yale. And I had Yale beating Purdue. I watched a little bit of the Ivy League championship game with Yale there, and I just thought Yale played really well. I just think hopefully that'll be a little upset there with the 14 seed beating the 3. And Virginia Tech they've just been playing unreal. They dominated Duke in the ACC championship. And then I had Kentucky beating Murray State. It's Kentucky. There's no real need to explain it.
That Yale pick's interesting because I know people were very high on Princeton. They only had 5 losses all regular season. I don't know about Yale, but you never know. And Purdue, I think it's vulnerable. I think they could suffer an early loss. That's interesting there. And while we're on the topic, while we're talking about that, we already mentioned Virginia Tech briefly. I just don't see them going on a run. I just think if anyone who watched that A10 championship game, the players were just, everything they said, everything they did, it just looked like this was the top for them. Like, it didn't look like there was much more that could be done. And it's hard to go from winning the ACC and beating a legendary coach to having to come back and play in the first round of another 6-round tournament. Like, I just don't really see it happening. I hope you're wrong. They're great players. I love what they can do. I don't see it happening. Nick, you look like you want to talk about this team.
So I think Virginia Tech's going to get it done in the first round. They're the hottest team coming into the tournament, had a lot of big wins over Carolina, had a big win over Duke to win it all. I think Virginia Tech is going to go into the next round of 32, but lose to Purdue. I'm high on Purdue. I think Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey are just really good. They have that one knocked out shooter, forgot his name. He shoots lights out of the ball, and I think Purdue's offense is also electric like Iowa's, and I think they're a really good team. I think a 3 seed is perfect for them, and I think they can make a run with it.
Yeah,
it's
a fun pairing, and Ivy arguably is the most exciting player in the tournament this year, just because a lot of the bigs, a lot of the top young guys are bigs, and they aren't always as flashy. Ivy makes some sensational plays, and Edey is really fun to watch on the boards. I'll be rooting for this Purdue team to go far. I like watching them play. I just don't think they can realistically get much further than the Sweet 16. Before I get my Sweet 16 picks, though, I'm going to pass it over to you, Coach. Give us what you're thinking.
All right, listen, so first of all, never pick against guys with 1,600 SAT scores. So I got to think that Yale's got a chance. I'm saying a chance, a puncher's chance against Purdue early, but I don't think they got enough to get to the Sweet 16. So here are my picks right at it. Baylor, UCLA, because doesn't everybody want to live in Southern California? Texas, and the SEC for me is always true. I'm going with Kentucky Blue, baby. So Baylor, UCLA, Texas, and Kentucky.
All right, very interesting. Nick, any more analysis you have to give on this region?
I just got to throw my picks around real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
If Baylor was fully healthy, I could see them going back-to-back. But because Baylor isn't a fully healthy team, they're injured. I'm a UNC fan, so I'm going to be biased towards them. But I think UNC, if they play how they did against Duke in Coach K's final game, they can make a really good run. But they're very, very inconsistent. That's the problem. With guards from Caleb Love, RJ Davis, who could really they make the game, and then Armando Bacot, if he gets shut down, then there's really no one else to go to. I do see them beating Baylor though, also because I'm biased towards them. I also see UCLA making a really good run. I think that a 4 seed for them, I think they're underseeded also. If they weren't banged up during the year, I think they'd be a higher seed. I think they're still legit as even contenders this year. I'm going with Purdue and then also Kentucky. I really don't see Murray State or San Francisco, one of the smaller D1 teams. That's a problem.
Man. First of all, I absolutely agree on your UNC take. I think they have the talent to go on a really deep run. They're just too inconsistent, but I do think they will beat Baylor. I think I don't know. I just felt like picking it. Sometimes you get the gut feeling that there'll be an upset. I think we all saw the ceiling of this UNC team, and I think they'll live up to it, at least in this first round. I am picking Purdue. I already kind of mentioned that. I think they will be able to get it done against Texas in that second round. But now my other 2 picks are different than everyone else. First of all, Murray State over Kentucky. I like the Kentucky team. I just think they're a little overrated by some. They, you look at all this analysis, all these rebounding numbers that they dominate. It doesn't jump off the board for me. I think they have a big size advantage over Murray State, obviously, but this Racers team just plays as such a great unit. They are so well coached. They're just such a cohesive group, and a team that only loses 2 games all year has to be on your radar. I really like Murray State to go on a run here, possibly even in the Final Four. I'm going to throw that out there now. As for my other pick, this is another upset that I have. Not much of an upset, but I like the St. Mary's Gale. St. Mary's Gales. I just anyone who saw what they did against Gonzaga, which it was probably very few because no one stays up until 2 a.m. to watch these West Coast games. But it was incredible what we saw from them. I like the West Coast Conference. I think the competition in that league is very underrated. And I think they pushed Gonzaga to the brink 2 times and came away with a win once. So they're great.
I'm going to add to that St. Mary's thing that you're saying. I did watch the St. Mary's Gonzaga game. I watched both of them. I thought the first time they played Gonzaga, they looked like a legit team. They were shutting down Drew Timme. They were stopping Gonzaga. Their offense was like really good. I just really don't see them taking down UCLA. It just doesn't really stick out to me. They are a really good team. They're a veteran team. They could definitely make a run, but I still think UCLA is going to take them down.
Yeah, I got to say I was disappointed by UCLA. You know, everyone just had these crazy expectations for them. I believe they entered the original AP poll number 3 or top 5 at least. And they didn't quite live up to it. Not to say that a team that's a 4 seed had a disappointing season, but they're not what we thought they were. I mean, I think they're just a solid team that went on a great run last year, and I don't think they're much more than that. It'll be interesting to see, though. I'm excited for that round of 32 matchup, unless someone wants to play spoiler and take it away from us. So that does it for our final region here. Now it's on to the wild card segment. And I think this wild card makes a lot of sense. You know, I think the best part of the tournament every year is the upsets. And we all love picking them in our brackets, but it's very hard to nail down the exact right upset. So 4 points to whoever can nail a first round upset here. Nick?
So I'm like tossed up about this. It's either am I going to pick Vermont or do I want to pick Chattanooga? But I think I'm going to stay different. I'm going to have a different approach than everybody else. I think I'm going to go with Chattanooga just because I think they're hot right now. And I think Illinois, other than Kofi Cockburn, really doesn't have much to like turn it up, make them a really good team. So if Chattanooga can shut down Kofi, then I think that they have a real shot at upsetting them.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on this Illinois team. I just don't see. I think an upset is very possible. I picked the upset in a bunch of my brackets. I just think it's not the. I just don't think it's the highest probability, and I think, Coach, you'd probably agree with that, right? We already know who your upset is, but take it away.
Well, I had a hard time picking this one because I really felt a vibe with Delaware. I thought Delaware would really be ready to play, taking on a giant from the Big East. But my upset pick is Vermont. I feel like team getting hot at the right time, winning their tournament. There are 3 games in the tournament by 30-plus points. I mean, that's a big deal. So I'm looking at Vermont. Listen, those guys are locked in their houses for like 4 straight months if you're in Vermont, man. It is cold every day. There is snow, and these guys are ready to play ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew, what do you have to say on this?
I'm all in with Coach SIRICO on this one. I was honestly the same idea he had. I was tossing up Vermont and Delaware, but I just think Vermont playing in Buffalo, I believe they're playing in Buffalo. It's going to be a home game, and they dominated their conference tournament, and they're just on a roll right now. They got hot at the right moment, and they're entering the tournament as the, I believe, 13 seed, and they're just hot right now. So I just think that's going to carry over. I don't think they'll make it that far, but you never know.
Yeah, and let me add that Arkansas has been a little disappointing down the stretch. I thought that they'd do great in that SEC tournament. They didn't. So yeah, I think an upset is very possible there. But I'm gonna have to go with something different. I'm going with the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. This team won 30 games out in the Summit League, which never gets any coverage. I'm not going to pretend that it does. But they're solid. I have checked a lot of the numbers around them, and they look legit. They look like the kind of team that their play can translate. The way they play can translate against a good team like Providence, who has size. In addition, Providence suffered a very disappointing, not even very disappointing, absolutely atrocious loss to Creighton. I believe the final score, they lost by over 30 points. So I really like South Dakota State to pull an upset. We all picked 13 seeds here, as fun as it would be to go pick an even wilder one. I think it's not super practical, but I'm sure we'll see at least one 14 or 15, maybe even 16, although I doubt it. Pull an upset. That's what we're
Theodore, I got to jump in on you. I don't want to cut you off, but two things for you. Number one, you remind me a lot of a young guy that went to Warwick High School that is now big in the talk radio show, and that is Damon Amanda Lara. He is big time. All right, big time. You remind me a lot of them, but I do have to strongly disagree with you. I didn't even know there was a college in the great state of South Dakota until today. So you're thinking that South Dakota State is going to upset anybody. I think South Dakota State has a hard time competing in Class AA basketball in Section 9. Just my thoughts. Go Wildcats.
Hey, maybe we'll get some Midnight Madness next year, and we'll bring the Wildcats out to South Dakota to play a game there. Maybe they'll take offense to this. You never know. Hopefully this gets seen. But that, unfortunately, will just about do it for what was a great show. But don't worry, we'll have more coverage next week. So stay tuned. We're going to wrap this up. But first, let me open the floor up again. Anyone have any last thoughts on this first round?
Michigan shouldn't be in this tournament.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Michigan shouldn't be in this tournament.
Look out for the Blue Hens, baby. It could happen.
Okay. We'll have to elevate you, give you an advanced position on this show if Delaware does indeed pull the upset. I just can't see it happening. Jay Wright is just too professional, too good to allow something like that to happen. We'll see, though. We'll see. So, yeah, everyone stay tuned. We'll be back next week with our Sweet 16 report cards where we analyze our picks, notably how Delaware lost by 35 to Villanova, and pick the Final Four. That should be a very fun show.
Daddy.
For Theodore Fernandez, this has been WBTV's first ever March Madness Overtime Special.
Go Wildcats.